right, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Stiff
Stiff.
Truth. Yeah, baby. I'm Scott Castelnova, of course. And if you guys don't know, you should know the man, the myth, the legend, the one everybody wants to be like, Mr. Bob West. With me as always. How we doing, Bobby?
Oh, I thought we had a guest. I'm doing well.
Yeah, this guy sounds pretty fucking impressive.
I need to meet this guy. So I had to give you a little bit of like early 90s rap hype there. I had to be your hype man for that opening. So thank you or you're welcome for that.
Yeah.
Things are going good. It's the forever ongoing COVID experiment. Everyone's getting really tired of that, but we're gonna have to hang in there and get it to a point where we can get back to normal. But that's a whole nother show, I think.
Yeah. Thanks for just really sobering things up a little bit there. But I'll tell you what, though, who really enjoys this COVID fiasco still is my dogs. Are loving it. They're loving every minute of it. They have had more. They've had more camaraderie and just time with the family than they ever had, and they never wanted to end. In fact, I think the dogs might be behind this conspiracy with COVID. They're hiding the vaccine. That's just my crazy personal opinion. I'm just going to throw it out there. I've only given it 2 seconds of thought, but what do you think, Bob?
My pup is having the time of his life.
Yeah.
He thinks he's finally getting the attention that he deserves.
Finally.
Yeah. Because, getting spoiled with everything and sleeping all day and shitting all over the yard next to the pool is, that's tough work. So
It's tough work.
Well, so you need a break from that.
Now he has somebody literally that can let him outside just to let him back inside so he can go outside again all day long, right?
Yeah, because, his lack of respect for the air conditioning in the house is astonishing.
He's a fuck your air conditioning.
Think I can tell the difference of 10 degrees with my fur coat? You guys are dicks.
Oh man, well, I'll tell you what, man. I'm pretty excited. It was this late this week. It was Friday. I got the little alert, got the text message and the double whammy. Got the email too. It said, Scotty, your Traeger girl is ready for pickup at Home Depot. Please come get it. Yeah. That's what I did immediately. Just was like, did that the face that was like jizz in my pants, the Lonely Hearts guys. Have you seen that video?
So after you changed, you went and picked it up?
Yeah. So I did a real quick change, went and picked that bad boy up. I was super giddy about it. We put it together yesterday morning and then we christened the bad boy. So nothing crazy. Yesterday, just because it was kind of late in the afternoon, I didn't have time to do like a real hardcore slow cook, smoke throughout the whole day. It was already it was like 4 or 5 when I was done doing shopping for the show, getting the booze that we needed. So long, short, did a couple of bison burgers and some brats. And goddamn, we smoked them first for about 45 minutes and then just put it up to high 450, 4 or 5 minutes later. Immaculate.
That's amazing.
Immaculate. Yeah. Today we've already got and you don't have, what's great about these Traeger grills and the Pit Boss and things like that, the pellet grills is you can get like a cheap, tough, really fucking nasty piece of meat that normally you wouldn't want to grill and just put that bad boy in there, fucking cook it all day long.
Just low and slow it.
Low and slow, baby. So we've got, I don't know if we got I can't remember exactly what we got. I just got a big piece, I think of I want to say, I think it might be a rump roast or it might be like a shoulder pot roast or something like that. Just a big hunk of meat that was on sale. One of the ones they're about to get rid of because it's about ready to expiration. I was like, let's get that. Have it in a rub right now. As soon as Jamie and Elizabeth actually they went to the pool. The pools are open at the a 25% capacity. I had to make a reservation. But as soon as they get back, I'm going to throw that in the smoker, smoke that bitch for a few hours. It's going to be baby.
I don't know why. I just picture this really prestigious club, velvet robe style, with someone at the front with a clipboard name. Oh, I'm on the list.
Yeah.
Please come on inside. And then meanwhile, you got bystanders trying to guess names when they get to the front.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is.
I'm sure it is.
Very prestigious, and they get in there, and then they're all cannonball.
It's like valet parking only event. There's a press wall that has a backboard so that they can take all your pictures and get your best angles.
I can see her too. It's not like going in there strutting it, got her fur coat on, take that off, and then get in the pool and take a piss. You know what I
Like the
mean?
big Jackie O sunglasses.
Yeah, man. So gonna be grilling and probably grilling every meal of the day. So as you know, the blood pressure, cholesterol probably gonna skyrocket, but I'm gonna feel good doing
Well,
it.
I don't know how much it affects your blood pressure, and cholesterol, but I think it is going to affect the old prostate at your age. So,
Well, well, what can I say?
but the interesting thing I find about that is I also grilled burgers and brats yesterday. How about
Really?
that?
We did not coordinate this
We did
either.
not.
Now,
I don't even think we talked yesterday, did we? Just chat, I think.
briefly, when I couldn't find the Benedictine at the one store, I was
Oh, that's
talking to
right.
you.
That's right. That's right.
But I found it at another one. Well, problem solved.
Perseverance pays off every time.
I tell you, that's why my friends call me Whiskers. You know what I mean?
That's a lesson for you kids, because we have so many kids that listen to our show.
Naturally. And you know why? We center this around the kids because it's always about the kids. You know what I mean?
Indeed. I mean, we're going to teach these kids how to make these panty dropping drinks.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my God.
that way, when they go to college, they're ready. They're ready.
That way they don't look stupid. They don't get humiliated by young freshman girls. They can take advantage of them like nature intended them to.
Yeah, they're gonna go to the party and they're gonna be like, a keg of Natty Light, huh? I got some Harvey Wallbangers back at the dorm. Who's in?
And then, as Jamie thought it was, and then I'm gonna, after they bring him back, then she's gonna Harvey Wallbang him against the wall. I like that. No, that's good stuff. I mean, to be cultured and to understand things. That's why we're doing this, right?
It is, because when your resident advisor comes in there for your dorms, and they look and they just see this articulately or immaculate or organized, shelves full of just booze in the course, like alphabetical order.
Sure.
That's impressive. That's what's really going to set those guys off.
Right. And they're really going to say, wow, you are a well put together, just astounding 19-year-old kid. You know what I mean?
You're well taken care of, huh? My dad visits a lot.
Hey, if you think about it, though, we're only giving our children what we didn't quite have, because face it, we did a really good job with our entire wall of Bud Light and Budweiser empty 30 packs that looked like the American flag, but a step down from the amazing setup of liqueurs and alcohols that our children will have, thanks to the show.
Of course.
It
was nice, though. I did enjoy the the $75 write-off yesterday for this outrageous liquor that I'm never going to drink other than for the show.
It's funny you say that too, because last week, we had the Galliano, right, for for the Wallbangers, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's like $45 with tax. And Sunday evening, Jamie starts looking up drinks with Galliano and makes a few, not too many, right, just a couple. But I'm over there, I'm like, whoa! This thing's almost half gone now. What are you doing? Put that shit back in the bottle. But you're right. Good stuff, man. So, I don't know about you, man, but we do a nice little podcast here, but we're pretty humble about things, right? Joe Rogan, pretty big time. I'd probably say one of the originators of the podcast platform. Been doing it now for
or at least one of the
years.
Originators of the successful.
Yes.
Wildly successful podcast.
100%. Did you get to see, we'll just call her kind of a little bit of a loony bitch, but did you see Alyssa Milano's comment?
Behind Brett Kavanaugh? Oh, no. Sorry. Wrong email.
No. She said a lot of stuff here. But she has a podcast, and I want to say her podcast, Sorry, Not Sorry, I believe that's what it's called. And correct me if I'm wrong here, is it only like a year or two old? Or, I mean, how long has she been doing this?
It came out last year.
Okay,
so it's a 30-minute episode podcast, so it's a quickie.
So
it's a nooner.
So like we were saying earlier, we would still reluctantly have a nooner with her, even though she's crazy. But it sounds like we have more content than she does, probably like minutes of time recorded.
Oh, if not, it'd be close just because of volume. I think she might do one every day or every couple of days. I don't know the frequency of her show.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I can't believe she went on a little tirade here. I don't know if did you get to see her Twitter tirade here? It was pretty sad.
I didn't. I didn't see her Twitter tirade.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm terrible at researching for the show, but I definitely had some Singapore sling, so I got that taken care of.
Here, I'll just throw that in the chat for you real quick so you can check out some stuff. But essentially, she went a little nutty, and her most recent thing is she said, I think this is what she's quoted saying. She's like, "We live in a world where Joe Rogan's podcast has 3 times the listeners I do." Now, she said this and people fucking blew her up. And I remember even one comment was like, "Hey, saying that it's 3 times, you're giving yourself a little too much credit."
I was gonna say, how many listeners does she have? Damn.
I know, right? Because Rogan literally has, I don't know. I was looking at the stats earlier, but he's got
Millions.
millions of listeners. I don't know how many subscribers on his YouTube channel and all this stuff. I mean, honestly, he's probably, and I'll say this pretty confidently, I think he's the most successful monetary podcaster of all time. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. That's fact. That's not even debatable. It's not even close, I don't think.
Yeah, she's pretty crazy, dude. But yeah, I was looking at this. I mean, she is just all over the place with it, but she's really bent out of shape thinking that not only, and she hates Trump. I mean, and that's fine. There's a lot of people that hates Trump, but and you listen to her podcast. Give us a little breakdown of like the format here, because you were kind of explaining it. I haven't heard it, to be honest.
So I did listen to one, and I got to be honest, I couldn't finish it, even though it was only 30 minutes. But I just, and this was after the weird little Brett Kavanaugh Senate confirmation, where she was just like sitting behind him, and you'd see like her head pop out every now and again. And you're like, what the fuck is Alyssa Milano doing at a Senate confirmation hearing for a Supreme Court justice? It's the oddest thing, right? And then that's kind of when I was like, oh my gosh, she has a podcast. I got to check this out. And so I did, and it was just like obviously catered to the middle to far left, right? A very very liberal, purely democratic. I don't have any time for conservative viewpoints. I don't want to think. I don't want my belief system contradicted, even if it's with facts. She's just like, I don't know. It was really hard, and I'm just like, it's okay to have your viewpoints, but you got to be open to the conversation. I mean, that's kind of what our country is built on, and I know that's one of the big things about our podcast, which is why our podcast is so much better than hers. But
yeah, true. And honestly, I think if we were notable names, because I'm just looking at it right now. Her political podcast, appropriately named Sorry Not Sorry, does not come close to even 1/3 of the viewers Rogan has. Rogan has 9.1 million subscribers, okay, with a 4.5 rating based on around 163,000 reviews on Apple Podcasts, while Milano has a 3.5 rating based off 2,700 reviews. And she ranks 5,700 in range in podcast rankings.
And Joe, is Joe number one?
He's probably got to be. I know he's going to be in the top 5. There might be somebody that's maybe a little bit more popular right now, but I highly doubt it almost. So for her to even, I mean, she's got to be losing her fucking mind to even get upset and to compare herself to Joe Rogan. And again, I'm not saying Joe Rogan's a perfect individual or anything like that, but quality of show and the quality of guest and the quality of content that he has versus what you were just saying, give me a fucking break.
Well, he's been doing it for so long. He's such a pro's pro when it comes to the podcast, right? Just his interpersonal communication skills when it comes to each diverse guest that he has. It's amazing to watch this guy chameleon from guest to guest, right? He's so well versed with his knowledge set from all these interviews over the years with all of these incredibly talented or brilliant people, and then the research that he's done for these interviews. It's really upped his game, just with what he knows and what he's able to speak on, intelligibly.
Intelligibly.
That's the word I'm searching for, but
intelligently.
I wanted to make sure that one rang home right.
Hey, you know what? We're just going to make up our own words. But you're absolutely right. And that was one of my biggest things about Rogan, because I started listening to the Joe Rogan podcast a few years ago. As I started getting into podcasts, I was not a podcast guy. I will say not until probably 2016, maybe 2017, before I started really listening. My little brother got me into him. There you go, Enzo. Shout out to you. But Rogan does have a way.
And now
Yes, now
Then
you
the
know.
stiff truth, we believe in nepotism. Really
Yes,
searching
yes.
for words today. What the fuck's going on?
Well, you did have a decent amount of cocktails yesterday, so it might be a little bit of lag, but you'll get there, Bob. In fact, we're enjoying, just so the Stiffies know, we decided to start out the show today with an ice cold Stella Artois. So,
Or as I
cheers.
like to call an essay.
Wow. Wow. Hey, you're firing all cylinders with the jokes, baby, and that's what I love about you. Hey, the beers look funny with the green screen because they're green. That's
I know.
interesting. But no, that's one of the things I loved about Rogan is like you had mentioned too. He's been doing this for so many years now, and the guy's not a dummy. He's not a dummy at all. He's been able to have all these interviews with fucking psychiatrists, psychologists, professors, rock stars, you name it, like every walk of life. And he's literally been a very big sponge, right? And really have soaked up a lot of their knowledge. And he's become this guy now where, yeah, you can ask Rogan, what do I do? Well, hey, I'm a professional guy with MMA. I know my mixed martial arts. I fucking know how to work out. I know how to take care of my body. He knows how to raise chickens, blah, blah, blah. He's a comedian. He's an actor. There's these things that he could say, yeah, I'm dialed in.
He really is a Renaissance man.
Yeah, I'm dialed in at these things. But what's really cool is he knows just enough about fucking so many different fucking ideas, topics, theories, or what have you, that he can, like you were saying, he can sit down with anybody and have that dialogue to where he doesn't seem ignorant about it 100%. He's very inquisitive. He's very genuine. And I think that's one of the cool things about Rogan, man. And it's something that I think it did motivate me with having our podcast too. And I've noticed it already. We forced ourselves to do research, to learn more about things, to take second looks at things that we, for instance, just to break away from me sucking Rogan's dick for a minute.
I was going to say, I mean, the balls are getting close to the chin. You're pretty deep, man.
Oh, Papa Rogan. No. But for instance, and I have to keep, I almost laugh at this, Bob, but like every single week, both you and I, we scooted all the way back to, I believe, episode about 7 or 8, or when we were talking about our favorite boozes. We fucking basically made gin the fucking little horrible redheaded stepchild that had no fucking validity in the liquor world. And now, because of the show, I'll just say because of the show, right? We have found that gin is quite a fantastic liquor. And there's a lot of attributes, and there's a lot of ways that you can use it. I am a gin fan now. Never would have thought.
I was going to say, you're a gym fan. You like to work out behind the guys on the bikes. Hey,
Timmy, you ever like to go to hang out in gymnasiums?
No, and it's not just because of the show. That's something to do with it, but some of it's our personalities and our willingness to be objective when we're looking at information, and cross-reference that with our own known information, or even reevaluate our information to see if that's really right. Now, I will even say this. If you're just drinking gin straight, it's still one of the more difficult boozes to drink on its own. But we found that's not how you drink gin. Right? There's so many drinks that you can make with gin that are fucking amazing. And because we had already judged that gin in like our early 20s, before we, knew any better, we had that, predisposition of hatred towards gin into our adult lives. And then it wasn't until we revisited gin later on and we started looking at it, we had that paradigm shift. And I think that's a real lesson for everyone to look, not just us. You guys all learn from our mistake.
And let's just kind of look at this like the way it is, though. When we were in our early 20s, as far as we went with mixed drinks, is making pathetically disgusting Boilermakers with like Evan Williams or fucking
like a Mickey's,
Captain Morgan's, and like a Mickey's or a Steel Reserve. So back in the day when we thought about gin, we thought about shooting it, right? Because that's what we did. We either shot it or we chased it. So
just drank it out of the bottle and pass that thing around.
Yeah. So when I think about it today, if I saw some dude order like shots of gin at the bar, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude, man? I'd probably have him committed because that's just not the way you do it. But anyways, long short, back to what we were saying here. Really funny that Alyssa Milano thought that she could pull blows. If you do get a chance, want to go down a little bit of a Twitter rabbit hole, check out all of the comments that people have made about her, because, I mean, she really got smeared But beyond that, something else that I thought was pretty interesting is, and you heard this too. Looks like Rogan is packing up, getting out of Hollywood, and taking his way down to the Lone Star State. Yeah,
Well, there's a couple of things for that.
California sucks.
Texas is just simply way cooler than California, and so are the people. So there's that. Beyond that, Joe Rogan's personality will mesh better there in general, which is the people that live there, the government that governs there, all of it. But beyond even that, dude, California is like one of the worst places that I'd want to live. No offense to our California listeners, but I mean,
Well, it's a beautiful place, but it's way too expensive, and the cost of living does not equate the satisfaction. You know what I mean? It might have been nice 100 years ago. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, there's no ROI there on that investment. It's like, I don't think that surfing and being close to like the lesser Disneyland of the two is worth, a $1 million mortgage. I don't think
No.
that's what's up.
And honestly, the $1 million mortgage, you'd kind of be living a little bit subpar. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not really what you think it is or what it represents in the rest of the country, which is sad too. I mean, I got some buddies that live out there. Hell, my company's based out of there. And dude, you gotta at least, if you want to live comfortably, like say how, and hey, let's face it, the Denver market's pretty fucking outrageous too, compared to other places in the country. But it's dropping the bucket, man. I mean, you have to put up at least a couple mil to not be in the slums, which is just disproportionate, man. It doesn't make any sense. So I get it. Now, I don't know this. Do you know where he actually posted up in Texas? Now,
I do not. I would imagine that not too many people will, because he works remote and he has no need to tell anyone. Right? I mean,
I never thought about that.
So yeah,
I'm trying to fact check it, but
it's good for you, Joe. Go to Texas. That's where I was born and raised. It's not a bad place.
Let's say I'm going to go to Texas, the podcast host said on a recent episode. Joe Rogan is moving his podcast business from Los Angeles to Texas, citing California's crowded living conditions and a desire for a little bit more freedom, quoted.
Yeah.
The controversial podcast host revealed this week.
Also, there's no state taxes in Texas.
Oh, hello.
So there might be a financial incentive there with his $100 million contract he just landed, which I'm sure hurts when there's crazy taxes in California.
Yeah, that's quite an incentive if you ask me. It's
and
why
people move. Dude.
Huh.
If I had to choose between Florida and Texas, because Florida is also a no state tax state, I would definitely not choose Florida. But
that is you, and I get it. I'd probably stay away from Florida too. If you see what's happening right now, they got another lovely tropical storm hurricane coming up there. There's that to worry about every fucking 5-10 times a year, on top of all of the crazy motherfucking people that live there.
Now, if you have like a nice high rise that you want to like rent out for vacations in the summer, that might not be a bad deal. And go and live there in the winter in Florida, and then go somewhere else.
Down there in Pompano, like, Miami Beach area. Sure. I can see that. Down in Boca.
I got a Boca Raton.
Oh, my goodness. Well, God bless it. I hope Joe has a great time in Texas. I think it was a smart move, not only to get away from the crowded craziness and what have you. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a much better fit for the guy. And Alyssa Milano's a crazy bitch. So let's move on.
Enjoy all your guns, Joe. You're gonna have a lot of fun.
guns and raising chickens. What else could there be in life, right?
That's true. So Joe definitely made a 180. It's completely opposite in Texas than it is in California. So,
and you know who else made a 180, don't you?
I do. I mean, they don't. So go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I'll tell you, President Donald J. Trump made a 180.
That's right, buddy.
Did you like that? You like
President Trump.
Now, what we're talking about here, kids, is there has been reports recently that, because the president really takes things very seriously. He was getting a little bit bored with the pandemic. Apparently, it wasn't pleasing him. It wasn't arousing him. So, Bob, what did his team do to kind of get him to come correct a little bit? I think this is comical.
So they came and they told him, President, Trump. um, this virus is not just affecting blue states that you don't have a chance of winning. It's
He's like, wait, what? Wait, what?
it's also affecting, quote, our people.
Now, Stiffies, let's kind of read in between the lines here, peek back behind the curtain. What they're meaning there is, hey, how do we get Trump? And this is from his team. I don't know if it's from his campaign team, his administration, or a combination of both, but basically he wasn't taking this very seriously. And our people really references Republican red states that potentially he could lose if he doesn't start taking this a little bit more seriously. Am I spot on there?
That is 100%, because the two states that I'm sure they're talking about is Florida and Texas, as we had just mentioned them for something else. But if Trump doesn't win Florida and Texas, the campaign's over. He has to win them both. If he loses either one of those, the campaign's over. There's no coming back.
Are you saying there's no chance he's going to win California?
I don't know. It's going to be a close race. It's going to be a close race.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right, man.
But that's it. And like, I know the polls are the polls, and the polls are so questionable. But right now, it's looking very competitive in both of those states. And if it's competitive in Texas, then what does it look like in the Carolinas, where it's almost always competitive, right? What does it look like in Virginia?
What does it look like in Pennsylvania?
Right, where it's a
Ohio
swing states. So I mean, that's what's the big worry here. So you see him wearing a mask, which, by the way, that mask is fucking dope. I want his mask. It's got the presidential seal on it. It's all navy blue. It's like the most legit mask that you can get. And I don't know why he has been wearing that. I'd be wearing it all over the place.
You know when he finally made the decision to wear the mask. Because, yeah, he's been anti-mask the whole time. You know, everybody's like, fucking wear a mask, wear a mask. He's like, I ain't gonna fucking wear a mask. I'd just take hydroxychloroquine and I'm fine. But you knew, he's like, hey, I want the tits of fucking mask here, guys. All right, do me up the Louis Vuitton mask. Remember we were talking about this a long time ago.
The stylish masks.
Yeah, so he's like, dude, I want the best fucking, and I bet he even said that too. He's like, we put it on. He's like, oh, this is tremendous. I have the best mask in the entire world. Nobody's mask is better than mine.
I have the best mask in the country.
It's so funny when he talks now too. We've talked about this before. Like when he first became president, he didn't have that presidential cadence. But boy, he's done a good job practicing, hasn't he?
You can tell he's definitely practiced.
Now as he's making speeches, he's like, dun, 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 dun. And it's like it's just like this, the way he talks now. It's like he knows what he's doing. He's commanding the room. Good job there, Trump. But yeah, you know, in all seriousness, kind of the sad part of this is, isn't it fucking sad that you got to point out to the president, hey, hundreds of thousands of people are getting sick. People are still dying from this. It's not going away. You're not taking it seriously. In fact, I think the tactic prior to this was, hey, you know why these states are having all these riots and all these fucking spikes in COVID? It's because their stupid Democratic governors and their mayors are fucking things up. That's why I told you this is why, right? That was his position, is pretty much shit on the Democratic leadership. They're the problem. Make himself look better. And it took his own team saying, hey, your constituents now, or hey, Mr. President, your constituents are actually getting sick and dying too. You should take this seriously. He's like, yeah, well, no, seriously, you're not going to get voted back in if you don't take this seriously. Okay, I'll change my tune. It's pretty sad that has to happen.
Or even more, there's no chance at all of you getting reelected if you don't do something to keep Florida and Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so
he's got to do what he can.
How cool would it be, though, just for cool points alone, if Trump came out in a mask that was just this giant middle finger that said "fuck China"? Right,
yeah. Bob. You know how things tend to happen sometimes when we say it on the show.
I know. I'm waiting for the mask now.
Now all of a sudden you're gonna be all. But Trump had a press conference this morning with a "fuck China" fucking facial mask. Oh, fuck China, spelled with a G. Get in there.
So I think I'm gonna have to make one for the next show.
I like that. Stiffies, if you guys want a "fuck China" mask, let us know. We'll see by popular demand if we should start manufacturing these bad boys, because that I can get behind that one. Though, because I'll tell you what, these little mystery seeds, I know they were just, little herbs and spices or what have you, but I do have again, tinfoil hat on. this could be like, hey, let's see what the Americans actually do if we just send them a bunch of random packages. They didn't do a goddamn thing. Test one
Let's
successful.
anthrax half of the country, and happily they'll open it and die, and then we'll take them over.
Yes. So I'm on that. I'm on the fuck China train, baby. Woo! Come on.
Yeah.
You're all yeah.
Beyond all of that, it is very interesting though for Trump to change his stance, for Trump to start wearing masks. I'm sorry, for President Trump to start wearing masks. It's a shame that he didn't do it right away, and it's something that we talked about many shows ago, where President Trump has this unique opportunity to win this endearment to the hearts of all Americans in every party, right? And that was when the coronavirus came. He had the opportunity to manhandle that situation and be everyone's hero, right? And be and create his legacy and be that guy. And that opportunity came there, and he did not seize that moment, right? He just kind of passed the buck off to the governors, and that's the whole leader thing, right? It's the whole, let's just dominate this. I'm going to make the decisions. If I'm wrong, fuck it, but I'm going to be the one making the decisions because I'm the guy, right? And he's the guy about everything else. But when it came to that situation, he didn't want to be the guy, which is very odd because he loves being the guy. But when it was like a high accountability and a risk of failure, he didn't want to assume that risk when he should have. He should have taken that opportunity and done it. And now he's trying to do it, but I still don't see like him like being like, you know what, we're gonna hit the reset button. We're gonna, just take massive steps countrywide. I don't give a fuck what the governors say. I'm gonna do it my way now because y'all didn't do it right the first time. And he could still run that narrative, and he still has the opportunity to do that. But I don't know why. Maybe it's a risk management thing. I don't know why he's still not doing it.
I'm not sure, man. And it strikes me weird too, because the other thing that he's had to have the opportunity to do, but I don't think he has, is bang Melania, like on a daily basis.
Has he had that opportunity? Was Baron born off of one of those like semen basters that they do with horses?
I'm picturing Melania like with her legs up like a Thanksgiving
like in a
turkey.
stirrup. This doctor's in with the glove that goes up to his shoulder.
With like a turkey baster getting in there. I would hope he had the opportunity. Now, I don't know why I got fixated on that, but as soon as you said, Trump's had the opportunity, President Trump has had the opportunity, and I was like, he really should be banging his wife. But since I know they don't even live in the same house, I have to say that doesn't happen too often. That's all I got to say. Sorry to derail you a little bit there.
No, that's okay. It's just it's a weird thing, but hey, at least it's turning it around, because what I've noticed of when I've gone out in the last a few times I've gone out is I've seen I don't think I've seen anyone not wearing a mask.
And like you just said too, when you go to Castle Superstore now, as you do on a weekly basis, people are masked.
A wall-to-wall porn superstore, by the way, if you guys don't know what that is.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was kind of an Albuquerque insider there. They're open, just so you know, Stiffies, 365 days a year, 24/7. They're even open on Christmas morning in case you need to go get your dildo or your porn. But yeah, they're even masking up there, right? You were telling me, which is interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was literally in there with assless chaps, but he had a mask. It was very respectful.
He's literally farting semen, but he's got a mask on.
He unzips his GIMP mask, and there's a N95 right under there.
What a responsible young man. God bless everybody taking it seriously. Well, I don't know about you, Bob, but you know what that means?
Well, I mean, normally, but I think it's time for our stiff drink.
Yeah, well, your pants are up, so yeah, of course, it's time for that drink, buddy. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one, so why don't we go mix ourselves up a couple of cocktails and come back?
Okay, see you in a few.
All right, see ya.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, that's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
So easy to share. Go ahead and recline that thing all the way back. Pour yourself a nice little bottle of bubbly.
Hey there.
Hey, sweet tits, how you doing?
I'm doing real good.
All
You wanna,
right.
you wanna see a little?
Oh, look at you. See, a little bit, a little bit different. Look, I got the pineapple in there too. I got the cherry in there too. I even go ahead and put in a little bit of lemon in there too. Why not?
Gotta
But you're
get
right.
in there.
I did leave the simple syrup out this time and I went straight grenadine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
I
did
want
too.
that nice red color, baby.
So let me throw my garnishes inside my drink and get rid of my dainty little umbrella. But bottoms up, Singapore slings.
Here we go. Ready? Did you get a money shot already?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we already did that.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good drink.
That is a good one.
So,
yeah.
So this drink is an old drink.
Yeah.
How about that? This might be our oldest cocktail that we had so far, right? It wasn't from the 1800s?
Looks like it was developed 1915.
1915.
1915. Yeah. Now, yeah. So here's the crazy thing about it. I was able to do a little bit of research on it here. It's another long drink, right? And we've had a few.
We like long drinks.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But yeah, you're right. We do like them big. We like them long. And this is, I like to call it like the Long Island iced tea family. Because when I think of a long drink, I always think Long Island iced tea.
That's the one everyone knows. So
right. And then the Adios Motherfucker is also a long drink. Tokyo tea, shit like that. But yeah, it's another long drink. And I essentially just think that is, let me just actually, a long drink is a tall drink. Or tall drink is an alcoholic drink, but relatively large volumes of booze, right? So it's not just, again, like a little splash of this, a little bit of that, and then the rest mixer. Honestly, dude, I could barely fit any club soda in mine. When I was at the bar, I had to drink a little bit just so I could put a little bit more club soda because I know it wasn't 2 ounces. So I was like, that's not, I just was like a splash. So I threw a little bit in there. But yeah, so that's what it is. It's one of those drinks that's got really just a combination of some boozes in there, and it comes out tasting pretty fruity, pretty non-threatening, right?
How about the Benedictine?
I'll tell you what, that's some good shit, man. I like it. I always like to try those liqueurs that we get solo. Me and Jamie yesterday was like, "Ooh, look at that bottle." I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." It says Dom on it, even looks really fancy, right? Got a little shot glass though. Tried a little swig of it. Oh, did you try it?
I didn't try it by itself.
Get in there and try it by itself. It's pretty good. But in case you guys probably already know if you saw the last episode, we talked about it. But today we're doing Singapore slings. Good shit here, man. And like here's the thing. From what I understand, a bartender, 1915, at a hotel in Singapore, Raffles Hotel. And this is what I thought was really funny. Initially, it was called the gin sling. Now, isn't that funny? Because it sounds so much like ginseng. It made me chuckle like an idiot when I first heard that. I was like, that's kind of funny. I can see why they fucking changed the name because it sounds kind of silly. But yeah, no, it's pretty interesting in the sense that too, like, I don't know if you saw the history of it. Looking at, because I don't think we got the right cherry liqueur, right? We had mentioned, was it cherry herring or something like that? I don't know, but
yeah, I've seen herring in a lot of the recipes. Now, this one, kind of like the Mai Tai, every single place you pull this recipe from will be different.
Yeah, we've noticed that. In fact, it was a little frustrating at first. I was like, wait a minute, this has different shit. This one, whatever. But it seems to be the resounding thing is gin, some kind of brandy or cherry liqueur. Benedictine seems to be in all the time, and the rest of it's up for debate. It seems like, Yeah. I mean, I got lime. We use the same recipe. Let's give them a work down. If they haven't gone to the website yet, this is a shot, 1.5 ounces of gin. You've got I believe, an ounce of Benedictine, an ounce of lime juice, a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, or if you want to have the nice red color and you don't get the right liqueur, the cherry liqueur, then using grenadine would work just as well. They're both the syrup. And then the other is like, I think, a 1/2 ounce of a cherry liqueur. And that's,
right. And
I think that's where we both, juice. Yeah. And I think that's where we both miss the mark a little bit. You throw that bad boy in a shaker, or really vigorous, like Bob does, get it really crazy, start shaking it like the shake weight, get in there, and then
I do 2 shake weights at once.
Yeah, he does. But then you top it off with a little bit of club soda, garnish that bad boy with a cherry. Now, what I read is a slice of lemon, but we saw the picture with the pineapple, and we both said we're getting a fucking pineapple. I bought one yesterday at Costco.
So did I.
Nice. $2.49.
No, we got shipped off, dude. It was $2.99.
Ooh, you got fucked, bro.
I think that was I think that's an Asian slang I just said.
Gypped?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
We'll have to fact check that, but I think that's where it comes from. So.
Yeah. Now, the Benedictine, actually, that's where you got the history. That's where you got the history, right? Because the drink 1915 about, made in Singapore, but Benedictine goes all the way back, I think 1863. This is the second time too that a chemist has been involved with the creation of drink. I think Galliano was another one, right? Where
very similar too, Benedictine and Galliano.
Yeah, very similar, like right
very
next to each
herbal.
other. Yeah, right next to each other in the fucking liquor store too. But you had mentioned this too, that I believe Benedictine was made by monks, right?
Yep.
Interesting stuff, man. Yeah, it was very was it produced during the French Revolution and all this. Really, really good stuff, man. But no,
monks knew what was up, man. They're working on those panty dropper liqueurs. I'm sorry. In the 1860s, it was bloomer droppers.
Jesus Christ, that's hot.
Let's get you out of those bloomers, girl. Have a couple of these.
Funny too, though, if you say, okay, so what's in Benedictine? The recipe is almost like the secret sauce on a Big Mac or the original recipe for KFC.
I was going to say the KFC recipe.
Yeah. It's supposed to be closely guarded as a secret trade. So that's pretty interesting. So we'll never quite know what the fuck is in Benedictine, besides it goes very well in a Singapore sling.
Yeah, you have to have it. It's that herbal offset. Without it, it would just be like a rum mix.
Again, another fantastic gin cocktail. I was surprised. I was drinking this bad boy yesterday. I think I had about 3 or 4 from yesterday. As I was christening the Traeger grill, I was getting that thing. I was fucking seasoning that bad boy. I was outside enjoying one, and I still can't believe I can't believe that this is a gin based cocktail when I'm drinking it.
I don't taste the gin at all.
No, or maybe we're just getting a palate for gin or something like that. I mean, same thing happened to you about sucking cock, right? Initially, it was a little bit off-putting. It was a little bit foreign, and now it's like an old pair of underwear, right?
Well, I mean, anything you do over and over and over again, you get really accustomed to.
Oh my.
Don't let anyone fool you, Scott. You're a real asshole.
Bob, I take that as a warming compliment. Thank you, sir. You always keep me straight.
You always know the best things to say.
Is that accurate, that you always keep me straight? I think that's the other way around, right? Well, anyways, we'll let everybody debate. Hopefully, though, I want to say hopefully, maybe 1 or 2 Stiffies out there saw our heads up about having the drink, and maybe they're enjoying one with us right now. Maybe they're enjoying one when they listen to the show a little bit later today or tomorrow. But guys, get out there. Benedictine's a little bit pricey, but not as pricey as the Galliano. It's only about $35 or so. It's not too bad. Other than that, you should have everything else in the house. And if you don't have everything else in the house, you're obviously not an alcoholic and you need to step up your fucking game. Okay?
Yeah, this is COVID time. You've got to maintain.
God damn.
You owe it to your children. You
Oh,
don't need to go
goodness
all
gracious.
falling down on anyone just because you don't have any real drinks.
Oh, I don't know if you've seen that. What you just said, it really reminded me. It's like the second part of 2020's here, and all he wants is his breakfast, and it's a silhouette. It's a silhouette of Michael Douglas, like and falling down with a briefcase and a fucking baseball bat. I was like, yes, that would be the icing on the cake. There is a disgruntled businessman in his mid-40s fucking terrorizing Los Angeles. Like, yes, get out there. Anyways, Bob, so enjoying the cocktails. Hope the Stiffies are too. I think we're about to get into some conspiracies. Bob, you want to lay the land?
Yeah, so we're doing all this stuff, and we're looking at Joe Rogan and Alyssa Milano. We're kind of going through that, and then we're thinking about our conspiracy theories for the show. And then we both watched the Rogan podcast from I think 2 episodes ago that he did it.
It was a few. It was a few. Yeah, sure.
So, and it was
pretty
with
recent.
George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple of journalists and writers, and they really came on and they wanted to talk about the government cover up and what the government knows and how involved the government is with suppression of this information, and they want to talk about Bob Lazar. And that got us thinking, you know what? Let's talk about Roswell. Let's talk about our own alien stuff. Um, especially, that's just down south. I mean, you can go down there and see nothing because the government left nothing.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Seriously.
I think everyone knows the story of Roswell. 1947, there was a craft crashing into the ground about 70 miles north of Roswell. So technically, it's not Roswell. It's in the middle of fucking, you know, bumfuck Egypt, New Mexico. But
AKA Lincoln County.
yes.
You're all, what? Where the fuck is that?
So yeah, something crashed in 1947. Ever since then, it's been the lore of UFO that this is when it happened. This is when aliens first came. Yada yada yada. So, Scott, do you want to kind of enlighten on the details of that
Yeah, and
fateful day?
yeah, that fateful day in July 1947 in southern New Mexico. And this is Bob definitely said it. Something did crash land in the desert in southeastern New Mexico in 1947 in July. That's without a doubt, right? I mean, it put quite a dent in the earth too. I mean, it made a little bit of a crater that usually a weather balloon or whatever probably didn't have the capacity or mass to do so. So essentially, if you just want to kind of get the high level here, it's pretty simple in the sense that a rancher out there, I believe Brazel, right? William Brazel or something of that nature. He stumbled upon what seemed to be a crash landing of something unusual. A lot of weird debris, looked like maybe a flying disc of some sort or whatever, right? Just very, very unidentifiable, aka or why they use hence the UFO lingo, unidentified flying objects. Long story short, with that is he had heard wind, and this is right when the craze of the flying saucer shit is kind of starting. You know what I mean? You've got War of the Worlds coming out a little bit before this too. Really gets like the public and pop culture amped up on aliens coming in and flying saucers and shit like that. You've had somewhat some sightings here and there in the Northeast or Northwestern United States, and he did take didn't he take like a piece of this or something like that to the local sheriff, or he shared something like that with him. Anyways, the government gets involved, the FBI gets involved, the military gets involved, and immediately they kind of play into the craze. They play into it right away and say, yeah, there's been a crash flying disc that we found out here in the government. I think that lasted for one day, and they're like, "Oh, wait, no, pause, take that. No, we're just kidding around. That is a weather balloon. It's an experimental weather balloon. It went down. It's not a flying saucer." And then again, they changed their story after that. Very interesting that they decided to change their story so rapidly, so many times. And then the other thing that's pretty crazy to me too is where this crash was. Again, it's about, I want to say about 70 miles north of Roswell or something like that, if I remember correctly. There's nothing there. There's fucking bumfuck Egypt out here, except there's ranchers everywhere, right? So they changed their story from flying disc to a weather balloon, experimental weather balloon. And if a weather balloon went down, great. I get it. Okay, cool. Clean up the fucking mess. Get out of there. Apologize to everybody. Let's go. They literally roped off the entire area, like a 2-mile radius or something like that. And they quarantined the area for, I believe, 10 or more days, which is very weird because if this is just a weather balloon and there's just a very quick cleanup they got to do, what have you, it should be in and out on their way, like I was saying. But no, ranchers were either stuck on their ranches, they weren't allowed to leave for that quarantine period, or vice versa. If they were traveling in the town to get supplies or something like that, they're trying to go back to the ranch, they couldn't. They had this area completely roped off. Nobody could go in there. It was hush hush. What the fuck was going on? Bob, pick it up a little bit here. What happened next?
So just to kind of go back, and I want to say it was in Corona. Does that sound right?
Virus?
Yeah, the Corona. I want to say it was Corona. So I don't know if that's 100% correct, but that'd be like northwest, directly above Lincoln, down by the Mescalero Reservation, Lincoln National Forest. So anyway, So the interesting thing is when the rancher took some of the crash landing, debris down to the sheriff, um, a radio host had actually called the sheriff
Yes.
and said, "Hey, I need. Do you got any like new stories? I'm gonna run my like weekly stories update or whatever." And he was
What
in
great
there telling him the story when he got that call, so he literally handed him the phone.
Yeah, what great timing for this guy, the radio host. He's like, man, I need a fucking story. He's like, flying saucer. Go ahead.
It's perfect, right? So,
Love it.
so then he interviewed the guy and then ran the story, right? And then the newspaper for Roswell ran the headline the very next day. And
Mm-hmm.
then the Air Force had already commented and said it was a flying disc, whatever. Well, then that was obviously someone that had commented before running it by the higher ups because the next day the story completely changed. And then it
Exactly.
wasn't until the 90s when the Air Force released a couple of reports following up on the incident from fucking 43 years ago, which is weird. But
Very weird.
then that's when Project Mogul came about
Mm-hmm.
the nuclear test observation balloons and all that, which first off, why would you be testing nuclear, observations from New Mexico when you could easily go do it from like Alaska? That
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
if you want to spy on Russia, why do it from New Mexico? I mean, honestly, you may as well say, no, we're spying on Russia and we're doing it from Maine. You know what I mean? It just doesn't
Yeah,
make any
it
sense.
doesn't make any sense at all. But yeah, that's kind of the parts that I found interesting was that the weather balloon story was better, but I don't know what kind of material they used for the what was that called, the Mogul project.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that they were using like solid iron and steel objects to launch up into space because the size of the crater from that thing hitting the ground is
It's huge, dude.
like 30 or 40 yards
Yeah,
wide.
no, it looks like a small meteor fucking hit the earth. You know what I mean? A very small one, but at the same time, a meteor nonetheless. And it's interesting because you look at Project Mogul here too. It's literally just one of the. It's not crazy, dude. It's one of the fucking like weather balloons, but it's strapped on with all kinds of fucking super sensitive microphones and shit like that that can supposedly pick up sound waves. Basically that's what they're doing, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Involving
now they can
microwaves.
hear things from like 3,000 miles away.
Yeah, purpose with long distance detection of sound waves generated by Soviet atomic bomb tests, right? So they're basically saying, are the Soviets bombing? Okay, whatever, dude. I don't know why it took so long for them to change their story from weather balloon to Project Mogul and how it took like years for that to happen. But you made a good point there. A weather balloon, regardless of how many microphones are strapped to it, again, are not going to give it the mass to hit the ground and create that much of a divot, in the Earth's crust. So that was pretty interesting, man. Now, the other thing that I thought was pretty interesting is the whole idea that they did find alien bodies. Now there's some different conspiracies and there's some different ideas behind this, Bob. I mean, did you get a lot into that?
No, I didn't get a lot into that. I'm actually just kind of skimming through some of the later publications that came out in the 90s about
Mm-hmm.
Roswell, which was for some reason in the 90s, because of the report, I'm sure, coming from the
Mm-hmm.
Air Force, it sparked the intrigue again. And then people started doing a lot more research. The alien autopsy video came out on Fox in the early 90s, and that was huge. You big ratings monster, bunch of horse shit, but super huge. Because at the time, we didn't have the tech or the camera capabilities or software capabilities to really disprove that right away.
Yeah, no, that was when that 1995, right, was when
Yeah.
that Ray Santilli guy came out with this, and I thought it was pretty interesting because in the doc that we watched too, one guy was like, "Dude, this is utter bullshit. It's utter bullshit, and everything was just too perfect." Is something he mentioned. I don't know if you remember that, right? Like everything was very timely, right?
Yeah.
Like they
Like the
had,
phone was the exact replica of something in the late 40s.
yeah, everything.
The dials and cabinets were there, but they were placed in a position to where the camera would force you to see it.
Sure, the clock on the wall, it was everything was positioned to where it would make sure that you'd see it in the frames, and almost like you can't question this because obviously, look, there's a phone from 1947, there's a clock from 1947, blah 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 blah. The other thing that was very convenient about this and why it was discredited pretty bad by a lot of people is in the 40s they used cameras that had a hard time with autofocus. I don't think they did autofocus, right? So there was that constant, every time they were moving the camera, there'd be that little bit of like kind of unfocused blurriness, and then it would focus in, then it would unfocus again. And it did it perfectly on the alien autopsy evidence, allegedly. But it did it perfectly to where every time you'd want to see some detail of the being or see some detail of the inner workings, it would go blurry. It would have that out of focus element and then focus back in as it was panning out a little bit. It was way too perfectly just choreographed with how that happened, right? You could never get a clear shot of what you were looking at. So that was discredited pretty hardcore. Now there's still, going back to, for the 40s and the whole incident, there's still people that do claim that there were bodies, bodies out there. So how do you explain that?
Well, I mean, the leading theory is we're going to get pretty sinister here with the government. So after World War II, there was I think everyone knows Joseph Mengele. He's the wildly popular mad scientist that did all these experiments on children and babies and killing them off of their pain tolerance and crazy experiments, right? Siamese twin experiments.
He even boiled concentration camp victims and fed them to other ones. He's a sick fucking guy.
Yeah, Joseph Mengele was very hardcore, but what we've never really heard that much about was the research that Japanese scientists had going on the other side of the world as part of the axis of evil there, right? Axis of evil, is that what they're called?
You got it, sir. You got it. So, Germany. It was Germany, Italy, and Japan until Italy flip-flopped like John Kerry.
Right. So so all their scientists got captured. Half of them got shipped off to Russia. Half of them got shipped off to the U.S. Russia said, you know what? Fuck all y'all. And they sentenced them to death, and they executed all of them for war crimes. So the United States, not so much backbone. They said, hey, you guys have a lot of knowledge. We don't want to just kill you, but we do want you to work on stuff. And so they sent them to Albuquerque, of all places.
Hey, that's our town, baby.
So they were here working, and the story goes that they were working and they were doing tests on I forget the disease that makes you age rapidly, to where you pretty much become 90 by the time you're 20 years old, and you die of some sort of organ failure because your tissue just oxygenates rapidly and you just
I got it. Progeria,
thank you. So they were saying that these Japanese doctors were actually testing with these people that had this disease, so that they could do similar tests on grown-ups and people at different levels of age, and they're sending off to doing high altitude experiments and all this stuff. So they're saying that some of these people, which that disease causes weird large head, large eyes, like some of these weird dysmorphia effects that you might see.
Genitalia, very similar, basically frail, very thin, elongated, bigger heads, not completely formed genitalia, extremely similar to what people see as a cookie cutter Martian, right? Essentially.
Yeah. And if they're all charred and battered and half there from the wreckage or whatever, I could see how there could be a connection from the two perceived life forms there. But They're saying that that's what they were. That was part of those experiments, and that it was indeed Project Mogul, and also tying along with doing human tests on altitude and all of that with these other people going up in these balloons, which I guess it could happen. It seems like a pretty wild way to complete the story to me, but it also could have definitely have happened. And then it's more plausible to believe that that's it than someone has actually traveled interstellarly to crash in Corona, New Mexico. But,
yeah. I mean, let's just wind that back for a minute here. Let's think about these very intelligent, intergalactical, interstellar beings. They leaps and bounds technology and intelligence ahead of us, and they just fucking can't handle the landing, right? They just can't fucking handle it. They've been able to travel through light years of fucking space, but they crash land and blow up in Roswell, New Mexico, and that's the end of the story. I find that a little hard to believe too. However, I will highlight though, and I got to emphasize how fucking disgusting Unit 731 was, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
these Japanese scientists were disgusting. I went ahead and did a little bit more research yesterday after, like, outside of Roswell, just like, what did these guys really get into in Japan? They went as far as this, bro. They basically, and I don't know if you read this or not, but they basically tried to generate the bubonic plague, and they had like infected fleas, and they went as far as to just pick out random little Chinese fucking communities and villages, and they literally would fill bombs full of these infected fucking fleas and drop them on there, and they would have.
Chinese or Japanese?
No, they went to China and did
So
it.
they went to China and like,
Yeah.
Why would they?
Why would they kill their own? Right? No, they literally went to China. In fact, they did that so much just so they could go in afterwards and kind of like their quasi protective gear or what have you, to study and do open autopsies on dying victims in these villages, just to see what was going on, to see if it worked right. They were really trying to create this biological and chemical warfare against us, against the United States. And who better than to test it on billions of Chinese people that don't really like either, right? So there's that. They even went as far, and this is what I thought was pretty fucking disgusting, bro. They you know what? That's not enough. We're not really getting the direct, like that dropping the bombs. It wasn't kind of like hitting the exact people they wanted. So they went as far to go to, again, Chinese villages and give starving children fucking laced candy with fucking I want to say, I don't know if it was anthrax or cyanide or something, again, something highly deadly, highly poisonous, and just giving it to starving children to see how they would react, to see if this was a good thing that they could add to their repertoire of fucking chemical and biological warfare against the United States. These were some sick fuckers. And in the process, hundreds of their men just mishandling, right, in the 40s or whatever, mishandling the fucking the chemicals and the bio fucking weapons, they died too from this shit. But really some sick fuckers. And that's what's interesting about this whole thing, about what the Russians did and what we did. You know what I mean? Like, the Russians are supposed to be evil, the Soviets evil people, Stalin fucking horrible, murdered all his people, all this good stuff. But they did have the morality, I guess, just to look at these fucking guys and be like, you know what? I don't care. I don't even want to hear your shit. You guys are firing squad. You're all dead. And we cut a deal with them. Again, that's pretty weird. But anyways, just want to give you a little sidebar there.
I think America kind of has a history of taking it easy on people.
You're right. Seriously.
I do.
Didn't we? Well, we also recruited like every single fucking German scientist to work on the atomic bomb. So
yeah, I mean, Einstein came from Germany.
Yeah. So there's that. But anyways, I didn't want to derail you too much with Unit 731, but they were a bunch of sick fucks.
No, I think that's an important a backstory for kind of what was going on in the theory, because I think overall I'm more likely to believe that there was some experimenting going on and some hardware that we're sending up that we're trying to keep secret, and that's why it doesn't really matter. I'm surprised that they even changed it. They should have just left it with the flying disc, because then everyone would have just conspiracied that, well, it's not aliens, they're covering it up, it's their stuff they're working on, and then the whole UFO thing might have swung in the other direction, that it's the evil government doing evil things instead of the other way around. Because it's almost like when your parents tell you not to do something, that's like a guarantee that you're about to do something.
You got it. You got it. 100%. 100%. Well, and this, the other thing I think is really interesting too, and we talked about this, and this kind of bodes a little bit to the Unit 731 theory, right? Very shortly after the wreck of whatever the fuck it was, people in Lincoln County, in and around Roswell, a lot of people there got super fucking sick, like deathly ill. And a lot of people bowed that to radiation poisoning, right? So I don't know necessarily what spacemen fuel their spacecrafts with. I'm sure it's not fucking gasoline or kerosene or jet fuel. So maybe it's just the fuel that they use.
It's Red Bull, dude.
That makes sense, because that shit gives you wings, right? That totally makes sense. Well, case closed. I'm done. Let's move on. No, but no, a lot of people got really, really sick, and it was right after the crash. So that does bode to something going on there. Something malicious was happening. Something mysterious was happening there. I do think, out of everything, the theory about them doing some altitude testing. Let's see how far we can push these fucking poor humans with progeria. They're already dead anyways, pretty much is probably what they were looking at, right? It's like, fuck them. Who cares? Let's test them. Let's shoot them as high as fucking we can into the upper atmosphere, and let's see what happened to their bodies. Because we had very limited studies on what happened to human beings at very high altitude. So that sounds like it could be a good case. But then again, I mean, I don't know where the radiation would come from there. I'm not sure. The other thing that still kind of strikes me as odd, and why I think the government definitely, if not has a lot to do with this, definitely had something to do with covering something up, is where the fuck did all the debris go? Where did it go?
They took it. They have it.
Where is it, Bob?
They have it. I hate the United States military has it. They took it. I mean, they wouldn't have just thrown it away. You can't just go to like, Alamogordo's Air Force Base and start sifting around the dump and go find it.
It's like, we're just going to scoot this over to the fucking, to the dump real quick here and just the landfill, hope it gets buried in here, and just don't talk about this.
It's like Will Smith in the autopsy scene of Men in Black. He's like, hey, I don't see anything wrong here. I mean, yeah, it's missing. Yeah, I mean, wherever it is whole. So
right?
Wherever they have it, they have all of it. So I'm sure that they do. So if it is a craft, they have it. Now, an interesting thing to kind of spin off of that is the Pentagon did release a statement saying that they do have off-road vehicles, and amidst the chaos of 2020, they released 3 pilot videos, Navy pilot videos of encounters with UFOs that are 100% legit, that came from the United States government. So
now that sounds weird when you say 100% legit and then you follow up with United States government. But you're right, though. It did come out from the U.S. Navy. And
this was not leaked. This was presented to the press.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and declassified it. And what was they kept referring to the, what was that act?
Freedom of Information?
Yeah, the Freedom of Information Act. When did that happen, by the way? Because that's when a lot of this stuff started to become public, not the Navy stuff.
I think that was under Bush or Clinton.
Yeah. So, but a lot of things became declassified during that time. And that's what I think that's one of the things that re-sparked the interest in the Roswell incident and other incidents, right? Is because all of a sudden now I have documents that were classified that now were declassified that were available to the public, readily available. But yeah, it was really interesting. Did you get a chance to watch the Navy videos?
I have seen them, yeah. I saw them the day they came out because I was just like, what in the actual fuck are we watching right now? Because normally it's something where you can't really see. It's super grainy. It's something that got leaked. But this was not. This was very clear. And the targeting sites of like an F-15, like it was.
Yeah. And you can hear the pilots like being holy shit, look at this thing. It's fucking, it's flying into the wind, and the wind is going 120 knots the other direction. It just rotated. Like, these guys are like beside themselves with how fucking crazy this is. Obviously, these guys have logged so many hours flying that these things are not acting rationally in the way our mechanics in planes and flying objects understand things. So
yeah, they weren't dependent on necessarily true physics and function of aerodynamics the way that our planes were.
100%, dude. And so that to me is again, but besides like kind of just hearing it like in a little it's not in the news cycle, man. You would think
there's too much.
Yeah, there's too much going on right now.
It's
but you would
perfect year to release that shit.
It really is, right? It kind of seems, again, I hate to say that 2020 is a giant conspiracy in of itself, but it seems like there's a lot of things that are being known or happening or being just admitted right now that are not getting the attention that they deserve, or that they would have got a fuckload more attention 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Do you think that they're sitting around knowing that these things are going to run across like their statute of limitations against the Freedom of Information Act, and they're just like, you know what, we could wait 4 years so everything's like calmed down, or we could just drop this right now proactively in the midst of this crazy fucking year and people won't even notice. Let's just do it now, right?
I think it's the latter. I think that's what's going on, man. Because I think if the government has any more dirty little skeletons in their closet, you might as well just throw them out in 2020 and just fucking air it out right now. You know what I mean?
It's hard to tell with the chaotic news cycle. I mean, it just gets pushed off right away, as this did. This briefly showed up, and I can't believe I even caught it because I actually ran across it not really looking for anything like that. I just kind of happened to see the story, and I was just like, it wasn't a front page story. How the fuck is this not a front page story? But it's not when you've got COVID, you've got the election, you've got all this partisan bullshit going on, you've got BLM, you've got protests, you've got riots, you've got fucking craziness going on. And then, let's just slip in that we fucking encountered aliens and no one will fucking
Hey,
know.
we've got a bunch of vehicles here. They weren't made from this world, and the material that they're made out of is not any kind of mineral that we have on Earth. Anyways, back to coronavirus. It's like,
Yeah, speaking of materials, dude, that element 115. I know this has nothing to do with Roswell, but Bob Lazar talked about element 115, saying that this was an element that was used for the propulsion system in the craft that he was working on in Los Alamos. Was it Los Alamos or was it in Vegas?
No, it was
He
Los
worked
Alamos.
both places, so.
I believe it was Los Alamos, though.
So yeah, and he said that there's this element there we cannot reproduce it. We know that it exists, but we can't reproduce it. And then several years ago, was it like 2013 or something? They reproduced this element for a split second, and then it like disappeared, like it disintegrated. Like they couldn't hold it, they couldn't make it chemically stable, but they reproduced it long enough that they added it to the chart of elements.
Wow.
So it's a new element. And they were able to synthesize it, but they weren't able to actually keep it. So if that's the case, then I mean, we may be looking at something to deal with, some sort of anti-gravity engine or anti-gravity propulsion. Like, who really fuck knows? The weird part, though, is that he was literally talking about this in 1989.
That is fucking crazy.
Element 115, he even named it by name in 89. And then here it is, 25 years later, it gets reproduced and as the same name, element 115, right? So, again, with the Bob Lazar, people can say he's a nut, but he's not wrong a lot from what I can tell.
Yeah, and the the interview that we're watching with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell is one thing that they could say always about Bob Lazar is he's a straight up fucking dude. You know what I mean? I like resonate, like this guy doesn't bullshit. He doesn't go out on these crazy outlandish things. Like when he says something, it's extremely believable.
He's not with the crew from the X-Files.
Exactly.
Those nerds always chasing aliens in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. Or he's not on Ancient Aliens or anything like that. You know what I mean? But I'm not saying it was aliens, bro. But it's aliens. You know what I mean? Like that kind of crew. I love that guy with the crazy hair.
Oh, that's
goodness.
Giorgio Papadopoulos.
Giorgio Papadopoulos. That sounds like a crazy nut job. Ancient Aliens guy.
No, I gotta look it up.
Ancient alien. Look, I bet you I just put ancient aliens guy, and he's gonna pop up. Look, guy. he pops up right away.
Oh, sorry, Giorgio Tsoukalos. I'm sorry. That was like racist towards Greeks.
Look at his picture in his Wikipedia.
Oh no. Or if you just pull up images, you're welcome. Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Sure. Is a Swedish-born writer, ufologist, television presenter, and producer.
And he's got some incredible fucking hair.
Was the pseudo-archaeological theory that ancient alien astronauts interacted with ancient humans.
He makes up, he goes with the Michael Bolton theory. So he makes up with the receding hairline by bigger hair. Right? The more it recedes, the bigger he makes it. It looks like he's wearing a headband. Like 13-year-old girls wear, and then have the big hair in the back. That's Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Oh,
we love you, buddy.
Goodness.
You're very entertaining.
He's a good friend of the show. He's really
a great
is.
friend of the show. So
him and Fauci hang out a lot.
They do. We all have Harvey Wallbangers together. It's fantastic. Well, I think that's about enough on the conspiracy segment.
Let me ask you this, Bob. Let me ask you this. We'll close it out with this. What do you think happened?
I don't think that it was an alien craft. I just don't. I think that the government was doing something. What they were doing, they have not told us yet. So I don't believe in the stories that they've given, but I definitely tend to lean on the side of the government simply because post-World War II, New Mexico was a hotbed of tests. We did all the atomic testing, the hydrogen bomb
missiles,
testing. Yeah, we did all of the testing here because the government can give two shits about New Mexicans. Let's just call that what it is. And so they did all the testing here. We had a bunch of bases back then that don't exist today.
Interesting. Right. They kind of, expired their time for some reason.
Roswell had the huge base there. There used to be another base at Kirtland that was called the Manzano Air Force Base.
Oh, like the high school.
Right. So there was another section there that disappeared in the 60s. It got consumed and just became part of Kirtland at that point. But there was
Hmm.
the Roswell base. So there was just a lot more going on militarily, and there's a lot more going on testing wise in New Mexico. That's where all of the world's best scientists were all in New Mexico. So whether they're at Sandia Labs or they're in Los Alamos Labs or they were down at White Sands, they were here. You
But
know, so
I'll tell you what I think, Bob. I'll tell you what I think. I think that the government was doing some testing with things they may have found from the crash site, not that crash site, but maybe another crash site, and developed, kind of like you were saying, kind of developed their own technology, kind of spin off of some otherworldly technology, and then combining that with Unit 731 testing. That's what I think. I think it was a joined kind of fuck up. Just me.
and it's plausible. I mean, we're going along the lines of the simplest answer is usually the correct answer, right? Is kind of where we're taking that.
Yeah, 100%.
Did you just get a drink delivered to you?
No. Jamie was walking by with a drink, and she just gave me a little "What's up?" You know, I was like,
Oh,
"Hey,
okay. It'd be a
all
lot
right."
cooler, huh?
It'd be a lot cooler if you slid that over.
You're
But you're
not on
right.
air. You can make you another one. I'm on air. I'm stuck. Bob won't agree to a second break.
As much as I've tried, no, it was fun. I mean, this conspiracy, I think, is one of those ones, like most conspiracies. There's never really going to be a answer to it. It can't be disproven 100%. It can't be proven one way or another, which is fun, right? It's fun to research this stuff. I did find it a little bit interesting in the documentary that we watched. Nobody really believed it was aliens, right? They all had these different kind of alternative things. So I think it's very funny that, let's just face it, Roswell's only alive right now because of this alien conspiracy
Yeah,
with the tourism. There's
they're
nothing.
definitely keeping it going.
Yeah, there's nothing else going on there. I think the mayor actually was in that documentary talking about, like, yeah, no, we talk it the fuck up. I mean, we
They
need this
saved our
shit.
town.
Yeah, because again, when the military base did get shut down, most of their employment in the city got shut down, you know? So they perpetuated the alien thing for sake of staying alive and having a town. But nobody that has any kind of chops or kind of credibility in this field really believes it was alien. So interesting how it keeps perpetuating, right? By, I think, a town and its revenue generating. So
One of these days, the government's just going to like roll out this old spaceship, and they're like, "All right, it was aliens, guys." Like, and then we're all going to be like, "You motherfuckers!" Right?
all right,
So,
buddy.
that was fun. That was fun. I like that. I love our conspiracy theory segment. It was a
It
really
is
good
fun.
addition for the show. Great idea.
Yeah. You're
You're
welcome.
like, you're welcome. Honestly, I don't remember who the
I don't
idea came
either.
from, but I just know that it's
Honestly,
fun.
most of the time we meet, we're having drinks, so it's a little bit of a blur
We're
that who
blackout
comes up with.
drunk during our meetings anyway. That's why we have these great notes, because we just write them all drunk. We've hired someone to like transcribe them for us because we're too drunk to type, but it's
You know,
okay. It's okay.
and that's how you know we're going places. We've
Little
hired
trade
somebody.
secrets. We're adding to the American economy. No, they work for free. It's they're volunteers.
Oh, classic. Well, let's get into the stiffy, buddy.
So, fun one. I introduced the conspiracy. Why don't you introduce this stiff truth?
Absolutely. This is something, I will say it's something near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've actually been studying objectively and like literally since I was a teen. But we're talking right now, and what we really want to discuss is psychedelic drugs, and not a blanket like, oh, far out, man. Yeah, taking acid is awesome, although it is. What we really want to talk about here is there what's behind these drugs? Let's just face it here. What I really want to talk about is there medicinal benefits to psychedelic drugs that no other class of drugs have. And Bob, I don't think we're both rookies here, but we've both done psychedelics. They are very unique in the sense that they are like no other class of drugs. They can be fun, they can be kind of recreational, but that's really not the point of them. And that's not really what a lot of people get out of using them, especially when they use them in certain times in their lives. So we want to dive into psychedelics, man. Is there a lot of benefits to these drugs that we've kind of just pushed to the side because of legality and other things that have been going on in the country, especially during the 1960s and the hippie revolution and all this stuff? Or are they just as harmful, and should they be categorized as deadly and dangerously as other Schedule I narcotics like heroin, cocaine, what have you? So that's what we want to dive into today. We did a little bit of research on this. We both have experience with these drugs. But Bob, what did you get the most here out of learning a little bit more than what we knew about, one, where they were going with psychedelic research in the 40s and 50s and how that got really halted, and kind of, I mean, just what do you think the benefits are, and what happened all that?
Well, the benefits are like virtually unlimited. Not just for medicinal purposes, but for the evolution of humans.
That's a good way to put it.
We LSD. We'll start with LSD.
Right? That's a fun one.
It is. So LSD releases a lot of what serotonin.
Serotonin, absolutely.
So serotonin, and so what serotonin really does is serotonin acts like the Karen of our brains. Right. So it does not let us use certain parts. It really funnels information the correct way. It only allows our brains to perceive things in a structured, normal way that we've always been able to perceive them. So what LSD does is it comes and slaps Karen across the face, sends her home, and it
tells her, you
up,
can't see the fucking manager, Karen.
It opens up the rest of your brain, except those spots that the Karen had been blocking, right? Your normal frontal lobe, your cerebral cortex, all that stuff that really kind of controls everything. It just kind of lets that go. And that's why you start tapping into what's called like the unconscious, or having that transcendent event to where people start seeing the bigger picture. A lot of people that do LSD start crossing cultural boundaries and start losing the significance of differences of cultural differences, right? So that they stop seeing things as an us against them, and they only start seeing things as a we against a human side, a unity side, that we are all connected. All material and things are all connected in one way or another. And that's a dangerous way of thinking for people that are trying to control. And that is why Nixon nixed LSD.
Oh, that was good, Bob. I like that. Very good. and you're absolutely right, because this is the thing, man. And this is what it's really depressing to me. I watching that documentary too. And again, I've watched numerous things. I actually, just to give the Stiffies a little heads up, I was in honors writing and research. That's right. I was kind of a nerd in high school, and my final paper was about the benefits about LSD and why it should be legalized, but it should be licensed to people after psychiatrical evaluations. Right. So I was already way out there back in the day, but it's interesting to me how there was so much promise to especially LSD in the 40s, 50s, right? Also, psilocybin in 1959, I believe, is when they started doing a lot of research on psilocybin too. So many benefits to helping people deal with trauma that they can't face, like you said, with Karens in their head, blocking certain receptors or what have you. So you have to go through this thought process, right? So let's take somebody with some hardcore PTSD. Went to war, went to Vietnam War, saw some horrific shit.
You don't have to use Vietnam anymore. You can use Iraq now.
I know, but
you're being time. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, you got what I'm saying. You got what I'm saying. All right, okay. Free love and sex. All right, let's go. Jimi Hendrix is playing in the background. Let's do this. So no, but just using that as an example here, there's so many things that people cannot deal with. I understand this from having trauma in my life, or having death and untimely shit happen. There's certain things that you just can't revisit in a normal state of mind, or it's going to become fucking overwhelming, and it might be more detrimental to revisit it. Right. So what I thought was so interesting about what they were doing even back then is like helping people understand. I think they did it a lot with cancer victims, people that knew they had a short lifespan. Yeah, terminal cancer victims. There's so much anxiety and doom and gloom and stress when to
cheer that up. That was specifically with psilocybin experiments, and that was not years ago. That's actually happening now.
Yeah. Well, they're bringing it back. They're bringing a lot of this back. Even MDMA was another one that was really helping people revisit things and in a more objective way and not feeling bad about it. But all of these drugs, they have a way of being able for you to look introspectively into yourself, feel and understand things, like you said too, the unity, which is really interesting too. Not only can it help deal with like PTSD and revisiting horrible things and helping you cope with those in an objective and more of a kind way. But I think one of the big things back in the 50s and 60s too is, what's really unfortunate is like it had so much merit, it had so much potential to help with so many different things. And let's just face it, I think things like racism and I think things like culture wars and what we're dealing with right now would not even happen if this kind of research was able to push forward from that time on. Now imagine if we had the momentum that we had in the 50s and 60s, and it wasn't shut down by Nixon and it wasn't shut down by the government in general, and now we had to kind of reboot it back in the 90s and 2000s and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things where people do, and I think one of the greatest lines from that too is, back in the 60s, you'd have somebody that's getting ready to be sent to war, and they would take some LSD and be like, well, hey man, wait a minute. Why should I go fight somebody? I'm not angry at them. And they're no different from me.
They're just people that are being told to fight us.
Yeah. And they're just like me, and there's no, and there is this overwhelming sense that we're all part of the same thing. And when you have a connection to everybody and everything, the hatred, the separation, the categorization, the who's better and who's worse, that kind of stuff, it just fucking falls away, dude. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, though, that was had the kibosh put on it by Nixon and the government officials. And this is the big reason why. And unfortunately, and I can say unfortunately or fortunately or whatever, is the hippie revolution, the civil rights movement, all that thing really happened in just like a very tight timeline in the 60s, right? So that was identified by the government as being anti-government and basically being a radical that was against the government and wanted to overthrow the government. So you have LSD, mushrooms, even cannabis, right? All those things were associated with this movement to fucking overthrow the government as we know it. And that was the biggest scare for politicians and the government at that point, is like, hey, these fucking kids that are out there, free love, peace, all that shit, that's not what they saw. They see them aligning with Russia. They see them aligning with other people
Well,
that
threat,
want to,
right?
yeah, they want to take us out. They want to destroy our way of life. Completely false. But that's why this thing got put to a complete halt. Very unfortunate.
I wanted to even elaborate even further with LSD specifically. LSD was being researched by the CIA, and fact, to manipulate and have mind control.
MK Ultra.
That's why they started looking into it to begin with. Mm-hmm. That was the whole thing, right? Well, what they found out after like 20 years of it being around and then getting onto the black market and all of that, and actual, people starting to become chemists and making it themselves, and they found that it was the exact opposite. And we talked about this before the show. I want to say it was probably on Thursday or Friday, but the way that I described it was LSD creates a non-linear way of thinking. Right? We're very structured, and we're taught in society, especially in America, to identify as an American, Republican, or Democrat. That's how you must identify. But then it's found that when you have LSD, those boundaries go away, and your identity changes. So people that have had or done LSD know about that. Now, a lot of people call it a mind expansion. But what it is it's you get that different way of thinking, and it's a non-linear way of thinking. And then you start thinking outside of the box. You start asking the question why, which is very dangerous when you're trying to control your own society, right? You start asking the question why. People do not want the governments and people in control do not want people asking the question why. That leads to revolutions, right? So, and that's the real reason why Nixon got rid of it. And classed it as a class 1 narcotic, which if you look at the class 1 narcotic specifications,
no medicinal purposes.
Well, there's
harmful.
There's nothing at all.
Yeah, it's basically they're horseshit and they have no value, right? And they put MDMA, they put DMT, they put psilocybin and LSD all in this category when he knew damn well, or maybe he didn't know damn well, but all of these things have the potential for people to have, let's just call it epiphanies, right? It's for people to be able to step outside of themselves and say, whoa, shit, dude. Everything that I think matters, this material shit, doesn't mean a goddamn thing. I am more in tune with this fucking flower and this fucking bug than I ever understood before. Like it's the unity thing, I think is really the thing that we lost the most from dropping this research. I honestly think that we could have avoided wars having more people that would have these experiences. That's my personal thoughts.
Yeah, and then to spin it up in the 80s, right? I think it was 86.
Hold
under
on.
Reagan.
Yeah, woo! It's
Well, the 80s. Woo! Let me get Tony Capella or Tim Capello out here sweating and playing some sax for me.
But I'll still believe.
Yeah. So that's when MDMA was banned by Reagan. Again, very Nixonian with his war on drugs, right? So MDMA again was classified as a class 1 narcotic. So
yeah.
So they looked at it, and a Senate panel said, you know what, this isn't a class 1 narcotic. It just doesn't, nothing fits as part of class 1. We're going to make it a class 3, which opens it up to being studied and being put to universities so we can test the medicinal purposes of it and really see what we can benefit out of it. But then the DEA, the fucking DEA again, said, nope, we're going to classify as a class 1 narcotic because that gives us more budget and more money, and we'll be able to imprison more people.
And we can arrest more people and have validity to our jobs and make sure our department stays open.
When the last,
yikes,
the least dangerous person in America is the one that is most high on MDMA.
This is very true. This is
They're
very
not
true.
a threat.
And here's the other thing, Bob. Just to carry on with that train of thinking too, is this is the unfortunate thing where they kind of have some proof, right, that is dangerous, and it all goes back to the black market. You know what I mean? And I think that was very good that they highlighted this and really emphasized that pure MDMA under clinical trials with professional people administering this,
quality control, all that.
Yeah, all that stuff. There's so many benefits, right? And I think MDMA is a unique one in the sense that it gives you that sense of not only unity, but empathy for everything around you. And I think that's a beautiful thing in itself, right? But here's the issue is they'll sit here and say right now, it's like, oh, there's so many kids that have died at raves taking this and blah, blah, blah. And they got dehydrated. You know what they're taking? They're taking a bunch of fucking bullshit, dude. They're taking shit that's got a bunch of methamphetamine in it. They got to take shit that's got rat poison in it. You know how the black market works, dude. If you're forced to push things to the black market, you have the likelihood of people making shit for a profit that is not the legit fucking drug.
Yeah, some dealer will crush them all up, cut it, make like 20% more pills, cut it with something else so that he can make 20% more profit. Not giving a shit about the health of whoever's giving it.
Same thing with LSD and not as much psilocybin. You can just go get the straight mushrooms or fucking mescaline and just go get peyote if you want to. That's probably the safest thing to do, kids out there, is just go get those.
Head on out to the mountains in the desert. Right where the snow starts to hit in the mountain.
Yeah, New Mexico's got plenty of that shit. And if you need to go further south, go ahead and check things out in Mexico. But no, and that's the thing is there's been so much like cyanide, or not cyanide, but cyanide and stuff like that in LSD. You know, there's that tightening in the gut that you get when you take acid sometimes. That's dirty fucking acid, bro. It's poison. But they add certain things to pills and what have you. Either it's because they don't have the right compounds, or they're trying to synthesize something just like it, or like you said, they're just trying to make money and they just want to come out something that has a similar effect, but it can be very dangerous, man. So they got reinforced by the black market, but it's kind of like they made it illegal and then they got the reinforcement after they made it illegal. You know what I mean? They didn't have the proof in the pudding prior, so they had to make it illegal to get the proof.
I hate the black market. It's just, it always is the one that causes the most problems. It's never the issue. It's always the black market that creates the issue, that creates the legal issues, that creates the crime issues.
Yeah. And then you had a snuffing out of legitimate research that they could do psychologically for people, you know, I want to say from the 60s until at least the late 90s, nobody was able to touch this shit unless you were in like fucking Switzerland or Sweden or something like that, you know? So it really put a hindrance on.
One of the things that caught my attention, man, was with MDMA specifically.
So you took some and you're like, wow, this really caught my attention.
Just play with my hair, man.
I'm gonna take off my socks and rub them on the carpet real quick.
No big deal. Just pet the furry wall. So with MDMA, there are no anti-anxiety drugs that are non-sedatives.
Oh, I love this.
Not a single one. The only one in existence at all is MDMA. So in the right doses, folks like yourself that suffer from bouts with anxiety could take a certain milligram or certain percentage of MDMA and avoid that situation all fucking together.
Yeah, true. And I
And
wouldn't have to feel sedated. I wouldn't be tired. In fact, I loved one of the things that they said right in that part is this is the only thing where you'd be completely awake, energized, and actually have enhanced memory during the experience. And usually when you take anti-anxiety medication, it's more of a, and I think they mentioned this too, it's more of a just to shut it down. Don't even deal with it, right? Like taking Xanax and Valium and stuff like that. You're not facing what you're anxious about. You're literally just putting a fucking blanket over it, like covering your eyes for a little while, and then you remove it. It doesn't actually help long term.
so I find it kind of disgusting that we live in a country where you can go get OxyContin from Pfizer or Merck and go take that shit until you're dead,
Yeah.
literally.
Mm-hmm.
But if I come back from Iraq and my service dog isn't quite helping me with my anxiety bout or whatever, I can't take a quarter of a Molly and chill the fuck out. That is ridiculous.
Seriously, needs to be changed. Bob West 2024. Let's get it in there.
That's right. One of us will run for office at some point. It's whoever has the better record.
You're probably ahead of me on that one, but time. We still have time. We still have time.
There's still time to fuck your life up, so we'll hold out.
Well, and one other thing, they didn't really touch on this specific compound of it too much in what we watched, but ayahuasca, and DMT is really what we're looking at here. That's the chemical compound in ayahuasca, and if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's comes from tree bark and some plants in South America that is usually made in ceremonial kind of just ceremonies in general. And I want to say religious ceremonies.
Is this kind of like a peyote mescaline American Indian thing?
It takes it to another level. So ayahuasca and DMT is more of where you literally transcend to like another world, right? And there's a big thing called like the ego death is a big thing for DMT and ayahuasca. It's literally realizing that this superficial person that you are is not really who you are or what you should care about. It's again,
I just keep thinking Jerry Springer, you ain't shit.
yeah. But that's another one too. This one is a little bit more murky in the sense that there's a little bit more unknowns about what it does and what it's really doing. But you've had people that take these drugs and they literally say that they have talked to aliens or they've talked to, other worldly beings and things like that. So there's so many, my point is there's so many weird untapped research and understanding of what this special class of drugs actually can do to benefit the individual, communities, society, and the fucking world. You know what I mean? And that's something where the stiff truth says psychedelics are good. that's what I want to sum that up for.
We really do. We both are hard on the beneficial. I think it's a shame that we're not dumping a lot of money into finding out how we can best utilize all of these LSD, mescaline, DMT, MDMA, all of them, because they can all benefit us. It's just a matter of how. And I think it's really fucked up that the only reason we're not looking into it is because no one has found the profitability in it.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too. This is what pisses people off from a drug maker standpoint.
Oh, because they're non-addictive. All of them.
Yeah. They're not addictive and they're publicly accessible. That's the other thing. There's no patents on the fucking DMT, a DMT, or there's no patents on ayahuasca. There's no patents on magic mushrooms, right? So there's no money making. And that's the other thing. There's no repeat customers. Because here's the other thing that's really interesting. And again, some people that say they're hooked on MDMA, they're probably hooked to fucking some, again, black market version that's got fucking either heroin or more likely fucking methamphetamines in it. That's what
they're hooked on. Hard pounding Tiesto beats. That's what they're hooked on.
Wait, here comes the drop. Here it comes. but that's the other unfortunate thing. There's no repeat customers because that's the other thing why it should be labeled as a Schedule 1. It's non-addictive. And in fact, a lot of these drugs, especially if you take ayahuasca and DMT in general, they aren't necessarily, if you watch a documentary, they're not necessarily recreational fun things. This is not exactly what you want to see. I think the guy said it the best. When you take the ayahuasca, it's not exactly what you want to see. It's what you have to see, and you may not want to. You know what I mean? So it makes you face things, and it's a fucking experience. It's a religious fucking experience, or however you want to look at it. So these are not things that people are taking like, hey man, let's go fucking take a trip and go to the bar. No, that's not how this shit works, man. Some people treat
Let's
it
go
that
do
way.
some DMT and like face our traumatic childhood and cry. I did that
Yeah.
last weekend, bro, but I'm down.
Right? So there's a lot of people that would probably benefit from taking these kind of drugs maybe once or twice. And that's it. That's all they would need, right? Have that epiphany, have that awakening, have that out of body experience, understand things that they never understand before, have those synapses firing and the different parts of the brain lighting up that usually are completely dormant, the way Karen controls everything. I love that analogy, by the way. But you know what I mean? That's what's crazy about this is it's not something that you do every weekend. It's not something that you do once a month. It's something that you literally do as needed to fucking get your
You might only need
mind.
to do it once ever in your life.
Yeah, yeah, to get your mind right and to understand, to get balance and to get understanding and it's just, we can go on and on and on. I don't want to sound too much like a psychonaut, but I am. So there's
Well,
that.
and then there's also the part that we didn't get into, and we're frankly, it seems like we're over on time anyway.
Who gives a fuck?
But I will tell you this: we haven't even discussed microdosing, and we haven't even really discussed, small doses of these drugs that could be hyper beneficial to people that need them, people that are suffering from PSD, people that might be suffering from psychotic episodes, people that might suffer from schizophrenia. We haven't even hit into any of that, or the possibility of working with psychiatrists and in a controlled environment, figuring out these doses and figuring out the doors that these conversations need to have to unlock some of these deeper things for these people to finally face these things that have been unknowingly troubling them their whole life and holding them back from something greater because they didn't realize, they weren't able to pinpoint what was the fucking wrong with them.
Sure.
Right. And there's these controlled medicinal settings that we're losing the benefit of. As long as these are scheduled as a class 1 narcotic, we'll never be able to unlock that, at least not in a meaningful way, because we won't be able to have these open, public, collegiate clinical trials and opportunities.
You're absolutely right. And keeping it Schedule 1, keeping it black market, keeping it taboo, what does it do? What does it do? It really perpetuates the party culture of it all, right? Which I think is a total bastardizing of the whole thing, which is unfortunate. And don't get me wrong, I've dabbled in that for a party element or what have you, but I think it's unfortunate that it's got this stigma, rightfully so now, because it is, restricted and everything, as it's just a ridiculous trip out, fucking nonsensical party drug, when both you and I know there's just way more to it. I mean, I kind of leave you with that, man. As you know, I've been taking medication and had therapy for close to a decade now with anxiety and traumatic things that I've been through, whatever, right? Everybody's got their problems. I've literally been putting a temporary Band-Aid on my underlying issues and what's wrong with me using these sedative, shut it down, just ignore it, push it away for a little bit kind of drugs, where I know damn well if I would have been able to jump into this and go into like an MDMA therapy in a clinical setting on the dosage that made sense, I would probably leaps and bounds in a much quicker pace understand what the fucking root problem was, identify it, face it, and realize how to overcome it, to where I probably still don't know how to do that now.
Right. And it's a fucking shame. Like, that we need the opportunity to explore these things, if not for the betterment of individuals, for the betterment of society. Obviously, we're not doing the best we can, and we're not doing it right. And we have much room for improvement in almost all aspects of life and almost all aspects of culture. But the more that we can unlock that ability for people to have empathy and for people to tear down those cultural barriers and to start having more understanding outside of their own egocentricities, then that's how we can really move forward. And until like it's declassified and we can actually start looking into it, we're just left as it being taboo, and we're never going to be able to move forward. I think that eventually it will get declassified. I think it'll probably happen after pot gets legalized. I think that these medicinal purposes for these other mind-expanding drugs will start being utilized so that we can look into it. Because not everything has to be this guy tripping out, fucking trying to scratch the bugs off his arm and something crazy. It could be just like a little quarter dose or something of someone,
and literally
that really helps them unlock their self.
if somebody's doing that, they shouldn't be taking the drugs. You know what I mean? Like that's because there is
It's
a
not meant
certain,
for everyone.
yeah, no, this is, yeah, this, you're absolutely right. And that's why this is crazy for me to say this, but going back to high school, when I was advocating that LSD should be legal, my biggest thing after doing a lot of research, maps.org, by the way, it's a great community, medicinal advancement of psychedelic studies, get in there. But one of their big things is it isn't for everybody.
You guys could drop a one-time Patreon to the show. Thanks.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And if you could send me some legit psychedelics that are just pure, that'd be great. But no, that's the big thing, man, is not everybody needs this shit, right? Some people are fine. Some people are absolutely fine. God bless them that they are. But there's a lot of people that have troubles. There's a lot of people that are confused. There's a lot of people that have hatred for just unwarranted reasons. Maybe they don't understand it, right? You know, like we're talking about the unity thing again. I think that's a big revolving theme here. Is I honestly think that given the right opportunity to be studied and to have these things just really be understood more, we would see a completely different world. And I honestly think, like I said before, you don't have Nixon, you don't have this association with the anti-government movement or what have you, right? With all this and the mind expansionist and questioning thing and asking why. I literally think we're living in a different society now that's much better. So interesting enough, there we are. I don't want to carry on too much.
We're way over on time. We should probably end the show.
I'm going to say we're probably around an hour 45, hour 50.
I don't know. It just feels like it's going long, and I could really expand on this topic for another half an hour, because I think it's something that people need to hear. And what you said is 100% right. Is not everyone can take this. Some people can't handle it. And that's why.
And that's not a slide against people or anything like that. You know what I mean?
It's a tough guy thing if you can handle a lot of acid. It's a rare thing.
But I can.
But some people, you know, they've grown up in a certain way. They have this, you know, linear lifestyle that they're used to, and they don't want to step outside of that. They're mentally sound and healthy. There's no need for them to kind of rock the boat. But what could it do beyond that for people that are interested in expanding that a little bit? So maybe you have a politician or a global leader that's like, man, I'm really struggling with this problem and I don't know how to solve it. I've had task force and think tanks and no one's really coming up with an answer. And then what would it do if they could then go maybe get into a couple of sessions and have like a quarter dose, a half dose of, you know, mescaline or LSD, whatever, and start thinking about these problems, or getting a few people together to brainstorm while their minds are in an altered state, so they might be able to come up with something different, something significantly different, and a new approach, and a new like a way to look at things that might be in a completely different paradigm for how people have been trying to approach it to solve it up until that point. So the possibilities are really limitless. And I'm not saying that if everyone does acid, the world will be better, but it would.
I was just about to correct you too.
But what I'm really saying is that people deserve the opportunity to find out. Humans deserve the opportunity to find out. We're not doing ourselves any services by limiting our thought. That's the one unique thing that we have. No one knows the answers to the brain. And so if we have anything that can like help us out and help us think, I think we should take advantage of it. And I think it's dumb and it's short-sighted to not at least look in that direction for help.
Yeah, and I gotta make one little clarification, and just something that I don't think with these type of drugs it makes sense. You did mention in a altered state. I would have to go ahead and correct you and say in an enhanced state of mind. Seriously, you know what I mean? Because
that's a good point.
You know, right? Because when you're altered,
makes it sound like you're drunk.
Yeah, or handicapped or inebriated. That's not really what's going on here. There's literally more of your brain that lights up under fucking scans, right, on these drugs, where it's showing you that you're actually using parts of your brain that you never use when you're fucking dead sober, right? Or unless you're some kind of Buddhist monk that just can sit there and fucking make this shit fucking happen, just like he could dry sheets on himself when he's wet. I don't know. Whatever. I go take some acid.
I gotta go. I got some mescaline waiting for me. So.
Well, you know what? You said it, Bob. I think we ran a little bit long here, but it's okay. I think this was a good conversation. We may even talk more about microdosing on another episode, because I think that's a trend right now that's got a lot of positivity to it as well, dude. There's a lot of people in the tech world that are doing that have swear by it, right? It gives them more energy. It makes them think clearer. It makes them think faster. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on there, but I think that's another bag of worms. So long story short, the stiff truth says psychedelics have way more benefits than pitfalls. There just needs to be more research, and we need to open up the floodgates and let these clinical studies happen. And I think we will all have a much, much better world in the future. So with that being said, Bob, you got anything else you want to say? Or if not, let's go ahead and close this bad boy out.
I don't. Just thank you, everyone, for listening to our time. This was a super fun show. It was exciting from the time we conceived of the ideas. I was really excited last night to talk about it, and then the more and more I researched, the more and more that I just wanted to talk about it. And so yeah, great show. I mean, I'm a little biased, but I think this is a really interesting topic, and I think this is something that honestly people need to hear.
No, and they will hear it from us time and time again. We'll keep plugging it. You know what I mean? But hey, Stiffies, again, like Bob said, thanks so much for listening to us go on. Hopefully you guys got some nice takeaways here from our conversation, not only about Roswell, but also psychedelics and all the other silly shit that we discussed today. So guys, don't forget, please, if you can, take some time. If you're watching us on YouTube, we got some really trippy backgrounds this week, but get in there if you haven't. Like and subscribe, ring the bell, give us a little review on Apple Podcasts, check us out on Spotify, and guys, enjoy those Singapore slings. They're fucking phenomenal. So if you haven't got one in there, get out there, get that Benedictine, and make it happen, guys. But other than that, I got nothing else for you guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you again next week with another exciting episode from Bobby and I.
See you guys later. Stay stiff.
Yeah.